Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the controversy caused by the Wall Street Journal op-ed written about Dr. Jill Biden in December of 2020. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I just uploaded 2 new videos to Patreon. They are unboxing videos. In these videos, I discover why I did not attempt to make a living making unboxing videos. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. This controversy starts on December 12, 2020, when the Wall Street Journal published an article written by Joseph Epstein, which was titled, "Is There a Doctor in the White House? Not When You Need an MD." The subject of the article was Dr. Jill Biden, specifically her usage of the title doctor, who at the time that I'm making this video is going to be the First Lady of the United States when Joe Biden, her husband, becomes president in January of 2021. She has an EDD in Educational Leadership from the University of Delaware. This is a Doctor of Education. She also has a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees. Epstein tries to make several points in his article, many of which are controversial. Here are some key items from his article. Epstein starts off by referring to Dr. Biden with a few names, including kiddo. Epstein is 83 and Dr. Biden is 69. They're not even a generation apart, but either way, using kiddo in this context is not respectful. He asked Dr. Biden to stop using the title doctor before her name, suggesting that the usage appears fraudulent and has some type of comical value. Then he makes fun of her dissertation, which was on student retention in community colleges. He suggests that only a man who has delivered a child should call himself doctor. He goes on to talk about himself and how he never earned a doctorate, but he has an honorary doctorate. He indicates that a PhD, which again is not the degree that Dr. Biden has, she has an EDD, used to hold some prestige, but universities have now relaxed standards and removed any value that degree once had. He continues to talk about how honorary doctorates are also worthless. He wraps up by saying that Dr. Biden should focus on being the First Lady and not worry about calling herself a doctor. Let's take a look at the history of the word doctor and its usage as a title. The word doctor is a noun that comes from a Latin verb meaning to teach. It was originally used by the Roman Catholic Church to identify selected theologians who were approved to speak on religious doctrines. These doctorates date back to the 1300s. Eventually, the title doctor was used to refer to people who had achieved a high level of academic standing. And about 400 years later, it was also used to refer to physicians. The term doctorate, in its current usage, typically refers to the highest level degree in a discipline. There are many different types of doctoral degrees. Among the most well-known, of course, would be the PhD, the Doctor of Philosophy, and the MD, medical doctor. But we see many others. For example, Doctor of Arts, Doctor of Education, Doctor of Engineering, Doctor of Business Administration, Doctor of Public Health, and many others. Generally, anybody who's earned a doctorate can call themselves a doctor. There are traditions that prevent certain types of doctors from doing this. For example, lawyers usually have what's called a Doctor of Jurisprudence, otherwise known as a Juris Doctor, but they don't call themselves doctor. Instead, they often use Esquire after their name. Now, there is an exception to the rule that a person with a doctorate can call themselves a doctor. When I first started reading the article, I thought that maybe Epstein was going to connect with this exception, but as it turns out, he did not. The exception is that a doctor should not use the title doctor when doing so would be confusing to the public or otherwise cause harm. I have worked in various clinical and educational environments and have seen individuals who technically had a doctorate use it in a way that could confuse the public. A few examples. There was a situation where a person had a PhD in art history and a master's degree in a field related to mental health therapy. She referred to herself as a doctor. Let's just call her Dr. Smith. That wasn't her name, but that's a common name, so I'll use it here as an example. In an environment where consumers would be expecting to encounter a mental health professional, an art history PhD, like Dr. Smith, using the title doctor creates an unethical and dangerous situation. A client might go to Dr. Smith and think that she has a doctorate in a mental health field, but that client is being tricked. They're not being exposed to the level of competency they believed was there. Because Dr. Smith had a master's degree in a mental health field, she was a mental health professional, and she could call herself that. She just can't use the title doctor in that context. Another example would be that if a bridge was failing due to high winds, and a dentist walked up to a team that was responding to that issue, like people from the highway department. The dentist said that he was a doctor who had experience building bridges. Yes, technically, but that's a completely different type of bridge. Nobody would want a dentist working on a bridge that vehicles had to drive over. The exception I'm talking about here with clinical competence is not the same argument made by Epstein in his article. Dr. Biden is not working in a clinical environment. Her use of the title doctor does not confuse anyone. Her usage is in a social context. It appears as though Epstein is attacking Dr. Biden based on his own poor understanding of what a doctor is. His argument appears to be based on two premises. Only MDs are real doctors, and PhDs are worthless as they are similar to honorary doctorates. Let's look at his two arguments. It is ironic that those who say only MDs are doctors, like Epstein is saying here, are not good at research. If only they were a doctor, a PhD, they might have figured it out. After theologians, academics have the oldest claim to the title doctor, then physicians. But all of the claims go back hundreds of years. They are all rooted in long-standing tradition. As far as Epstein's claims about honorary doctorates, this has nothing to do with Dr. Biden. Again, she has an EDD. She actually earned that degree. It was not given to her. I understand the argument against honorary doctorates. They don't make much sense to me either, but they are not related to this topic. The analogy here with Epstein's position would be like a lawyer defending a client who is accused of using a baseball bat in an attack by talking about how the client never owned a knife. The attorney could completely convince a jury that his client never even touched a knife, but the defendant could still be found guilty. The baseball bat issue is separate from the knife issue. I'm not sure what Epstein was trying to achieve with his anti-science and nonsensical article. His attacks appear to be based on something like the fact that Dr. Biden is a woman more so than anything about doctoral degrees. And I think this is what has really angered a lot of people regarding his article. This article is just an intellectually lazy attempt to insult Dr. Biden. Epstein is essentially accusing her of being narcissistic, but ends up exposing his own potentially narcissistic attitude, like talking with authority on a subject he clearly does not understand. Epstein's article reminds us that it's important not to drift away from science. Educational programs, including doctoral programs, should be rigorous so that articles like this do not get written in the first place. I believe that anyone connected with politics is fair game for legitimate commentary, but what we see here is really more of a hit piece. It will probably have a paradoxical effect, as now we see many people with doctorates using the title to express support for Dr. Jill Biden. Conspiracy theorists might wonder if Epstein wrote such an obviously deficient article in an effort to get just that effect. It's so badly written, it actually makes the very point it's arguing against. I think it's more likely that Epstein simply has poor judgment or deficient analytical skills, but there's no way to know. Nonsensical data are always resistant to interpretation. Those are my thoughts about the controversy around this article and Dr. Jill Biden. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis on this topic to be enlightening. Thanks for watching.